case you're wondering, I'm not feeling any pressure that Father Stephen was hyping up the homily at the beginning of Mass, okay? But I'd like to start out by just saying that I see a lot of familiar faces that we probably haven't seen in a while, or at least the familiar half of faces. And for those of you that may have been away for a while during this pandemic, I'd like to give you a warm welcome back. It's just great that things are starting to loosen up. I'm sure we can all agree, right, that the weather's turning, and it looks like things are turning around, so it's very hopeful. So on another note, I have some very good news that after months and months and actually years of unsuccessful petitions to a higher authority, my son was finally granted approval to get a dog. And of course, that higher authority was my wife. That was not me that granted the approval. So along with the welcoming of this new four-legged friend into our household, obviously there comes a lot of responsibility with that. And of course, at our fingertips, we have just a wealth of information and experience and wisdom through YouTube and Google and all kinds of information out there. So the first thing we went to start looking up and studying, of course, was obedience training. When I told my father that we were going to adopt this rescue puppy, he asked me, "Are you going to get this dog trained properly?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And then I'm thinking, this is the guy that when I was a kid, he was chasing the dog around the backyard because the dog wouldn't listen to him. But on a serious note, for those of you that have a dog, or if you can imagine, having an obedient dog that's trained properly really is a necessity. Right? I mean, we can deal with a short period of time where the dog needs to adjust and learn where they go to do their business, where they can and can't go, what they can and can't chew on, what they can and can't eat, because when they're not obedient, life isn't so fun, right? Like those first couple of weeks adjusting to cleaning out the crate in the middle of the night and all that kind of stuff. Life can be a little rough. But when things are moving along properly and the dog knows to let you know when she needs to go out or when she's hungry, things are good. There's a good balance there. So at this point, you may be wondering why I'm going to reflect on obedience tonight. And if you remember, as a reminder, this month we'll be preaching on Pope Francis's apostolic letter, Patris Corde, the heart of a father. And we're breaking it up into chapters. Father Stephen talked a little bit about the introduction and I think the first chapter. And Father Jay had a few chapters last week. And so I have chapter 3 this week on St. Joseph, the obedient father. So obedience. I just talked a little bit about some of the positivity of obedience and the necessity of obedience in our everyday lives. But I think you can agree as well that sometimes just hearing the word obedience kind of has a little bit of a negative connotation, or it has some type of a stigma attached to it, right? Especially now with, right, government officials and what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do, we have a little trouble with that. But if we really reflect on obedience and that relationship between an authority figure and a subordinate figure, really, I think you would find that we all kind of play both sides of that coin in our lives, right? Whether we're a child and we have to listen to our parent, or we're at work in the workplace. I know I'm a supervisor at work. I have people that I'm responsible for, but I know that I turn around and I have to answer to somebody as well. I got a good boss over here, though. He's pretty good. But the requirement, we really need to focus on the requirements of making that work perfectly, right? In order for that to really work, the one who's in an authority position really has to put the well-being of that person's subordinate at the top of the priority list. The subordinate, in order to carry out obedience the right way, needs to have trust in the authority figure. The subordinate needs to have humility, needs to be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things, right? A lot of times we may struggle when we're being told to do something because we disagree or we think there's a better way to do it. So we're challenged. So when we look at the letter from Pope Francis, he really looks at this perfect example that we have between St. Joseph and Jesus and God and their wills coming together. St. Joseph was, as we know from the Gospels, was visited in a dream 4 different times by an angel with a message from God. And you know this one very well, right? Joseph and Mary were betrothed, and then Joseph came to learn that Mary was with child. It was very troubling. But he was visited by an angel, and the angel gave him a command. This is God's plan. You are to take Mary and this child and raise that child as your own. This is your family. This is the plan. Joseph did it. When Jesus was born and was growing, Herod was threatened, of course, and we know about the slaughter of the innocents. All the boys in the village, 2 years and under, were to be slaughtered. He said, take up your stuff, take the child and his mother, and get to Egypt to safety. Joseph did as he was commanded. And there were 2 more dreams. It was safe to return, and he had to take him to Nazareth. But if Joseph did not follow those commands, this whole plan, God's plan, would not have carried out the way it's supposed to carry out. It was necessary for success. And if you think struggling with the will of another may be a problem, I find some solace in reading Pope Francis's words when he really focuses on the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus himself, we can actually see Jesus' human nature as he struggles with the will of the Father for him. Right? We're familiar with this, right? Father, please let this cup pass from me. But if it be your will, then that's my will as well. And so once Jesus joined his will to the will of the Father, the plan was able to be fulfilled. It wasn't easy. Didn't say it was going to be easy. And so when we leave Mass this evening, maybe on our way home, or if we're going out to dinner with some family or some friends, let us take just a moment to reflect and say, if I'm in a position of authority, do I have that person's best interest as my top priority that I'm responsible for? Or if I'm in a subordinate position to someone, am I really open and trusting and open to the challenge? God bless you.